As was alluded to before, he said the artists are the gatekeepers of truth. They are society's most radical voices. And a mentee of Paul Robeson, Harry Belafonte, said that when the movement is strong, the music is strong. And so if you look at the Billboard 100, the #1 rap album in America today is a Broadway musical called Alexander Hamilton. A rap musical about Hamilton. Is the #1, beats Fetty Wap, beats Drake, beats Future. The #1 rap album on Billboard today is a Broadway musical. So if I look at what's happened now, and why now? Why is the music strong? Why is the movement strong? Why is the art strong? Why is the protest strong? I look at this device that I have in my pocket. We call this an iPhone. This is no telephone. This is a computer in my pocket. I use this thing probably 6% of the time as a phone and 94% of the time as a computer. We call it an iPhone. I mean, you have a job like me, the job will pay for your computer, but they won't pay for this. Which blows my mind, because I use this more than I use my company computer. And so I'm a theater major, so I look at these smart people over here, and I do not compare to their expertise or the books. I want to read your book, because that book sounds tremendous. But I am a student of stories. And if we look at this country and the radical change that Paul Robeson talks about, of when that radical change happens, it's when communication changes drastically. And this is one piece of history I think I know a little bit about. Going back to the Civil War in the 1860s, and President Lincoln using the Pony Express to get the word to his troops. They could hear directly from the President of the United States orders from him to his troops in the 1960s. We look at the 1930s, 1920s, the invention of the radio. And Franklin Delano Roosevelt talking to the American people, and the American people hearing the president's voice, their president, for the first time in the history of this country, and the fireside chats that he spoke to the American people in their homes. We moved to the 1960s, the television, the advent of the television. If you listened to that radio debate between Nixon and Kennedy in 1960, you thought Nixon won. If you watched it on television, just like if you remember the first debate between Romney and Obama bombed. He was nervous, his body language was poor, and if you watch that Nixon-Kennedy debate on television, Nixon, his body language was poor, he was sweating profusely, and Kennedy won. And then if we move 30, 40 years later to 2008, YouTube was a 3-year-old company in 2008, 3 years old, and they sponsored a presidential debate. Not only did they sponsor a presidential debate, if I take a step back, George Allen, the senator from Virginia, was the leading candidate for the 2008 Republican nomination when the primaries began. And a young man who was tracking him took his computer in his hand and he filmed a 15-second clip of Senator Allen using a derogatory word against Asian and Indian Americans. And that 15-second clip destroyed his career, as it well should be. And the whole election changed, and then Barack Obama rose, and we had him as our president. And in 2008, with the YouTube debate between Senator McCain and then Senator Obama. And so now we have this. So what happened a week ago in Paris, France? An absolute horrific tragedy. And 2 days before that in Beirut, an absolutely horrific tragedy. And today in Mali, an absolute horrific tragedy. And 3 days ago in Nigeria, an absolute horrific tragedy. What do I do as a young person when those things happen? I go to this to get my information. Directly to this. I don't wait for CNN. I don't wait for the paper to be printed the next day. I went directly to this when I saw one tweet about Paris to get directly from the people. When Ferguson happened, DeRay McKesson went from 600 Twitter followers to 250,000. I admire that. Antonio French, a city alderman from St. Louis, went from 150 followers to 120,000 overnight. Because they were the ones who were in the streets, who were protesting and filming and recording and telling the stories of the movement. And so no longer, I sat with CNN not too long ago and I said to them, with all due respect, if Sean King, DeRay McKesson, and myself tweet something, you're going to have to pay attention. And they said, no, that's not true. I said, okay, you believe that. You look at Mizzou, those young courageous students in the University of Missouri. You look at those young people. The press wasn't talking about concerned student 1950. The press wasn't talking about the young man who was starving himself in protest. It took 2-3 days before the press paid attention, but the young people collectively around this country, they knew their history. They knew that racism was not just a singular incident, but that it was deeply rooted in our structures in this country from the beginning of our time. And they went directly after their president, and they combined with people around the country who were supporting them, and they got changed quickly. And now every university across, I see emails, people send me emails, students across this country from their university presidents saying, let's talk about it now. We know there's a problem on campus, let's have a conversation now. I got one from Ithaca, I got one from the University of Chicago. They're all sending them out now like, no, I don't want to lose my job. Yeah. Let's have a conversation. You ready? Because I'm ready. That's because young people in Missouri use this device to tell a story. So if I was looking at, in 2009, I'll end with this. In 2009, when I first started working